Alright guys, welcome to Flop Oriana's MMA show. I'm your host, Flop Oriana, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. Guys, UFC 279 is officially in the books. I gotta say, from top to bottom, decent pay-per-view card, alright? Was it the pay-per-view card that we were originally thought it was gonna be? Diaz versus Shamaya? No, alright? And by the way, I am talking low because it is 1:34 in the morning here on the East Coast. I am not going to be talking as loud as I normally would. Right? But anyways, we got the fights that we wanted. Tony versus Nate Diaz, got that done. We got we got two people that didn't like each other. Hamza versus Kevin Holland. Okay, got that done. What's it called? The 10-pound discrepancy fight between Daniel Rodriguez versus Li Jingliang. We got that done. And a great, women's fight, in my opinion, between Irene Aldana versus Macy Chasson. And then we had the light heavyweights kick it off in the main card between Johnny Walker and Ian Cutelaba. All right, I'll try to talk about the prelims. All right. One fight I will talk about is Chris Barnett, right? He definitely is going to be mentioned in this video. But why don't we kick it off with the main event, which is Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson. So a lot was on the line here, all right? This was going to be Nate Diaz's final fight on his contract in the UFC. And Tony Ferguson, who has been on a losing streak, all right? I believe it was a 4-fight losing streak. I know everything started off with that Justin Gaethje fight, which, to me, I think that fight took so much out of Justin Gaethje, all right? Guys, I do feel that, and I've said it in previous videos, and I said it on Hack of a Morning, on all different types of platforms, right? In the Twitter spaces. I've said it in the past that Dan Hooker has never been the same after that Dustin Poirier fight, and Tony Ferguson has never been the same ever since that Justin Gaethje fight. Both fighters have taken an immense amount of damage, all right, ever since taking those fights and beginning with those fights, okay? And I felt like this was going to be a very good test because Nate Diaz, he has that Richard Perez boxing background. He has the Gracie background in jiu-jitsu, okay? Against Tony Ferguson, who is a wild man, he definitely has a unique background. He usually does a lot of this stuff himself. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, interesting matchup. It's a fight that we definitely should have seen, at some point, and we're finally going to get it. Okay, can't wait. What ends up happening? Round one, craziness begins. Tony attacking the legs. Nate Diaz using the boxing. Nate Diaz is flat-footed with his lead leg out. And Tony just doing crazy things. Attacking the body, punching the leg, and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, cool. We're going to get this for about 5 rounds. All right. And I gave round 1 to Nate Diaz, okay? Round 2, right? You got to see a little bit more of Tony, utilizing leg kicks, attacking the body. Nate Diaz using his great boxing background. And I'm thinking, in order for Tony to win, he's not going to be able to outbox Nate Diaz. So he's going to have to cut away the legs, chop away the legs, attack that front leg. And it was starting to affect Nate Diaz, all right? And Diaz, applying pressure, picking and choosing how he's going to hit, throw the combinations. Is he going to, double jab you with the right and then follow it off with the left? Or is he going to just cross hook you? All right, so I thought that was kind of, good on Diaz's part. Close round, but I still gave it an 8 Diaz after 2 rounds. Round 3, that's when we really started to see Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson was really attacking that lead leg, and you just started to see, that it was affecting Nate. That it was starting to become all bubbly in that lead leg. Nate was switching stances. And that was good for like the first 3 minutes. And then the last 2 minutes of round 3, Nate was just pouring it on Tony's leg looked like a crimson mask. It was all bloody. All right. At one point, you did see Nate wince, and Nate Diaz was just taking some time, resting against the cage. Mark Carter was just like, "Come on, guys, you guys gotta fight, And I was just all in it. I was just all enjoying the fact that we were able to see two OGs fight it out in the main event. Something I was really looking forward to, as opposed to Hamza versus Nate Diaz, because you just knew that was going to be a slaughter. All right. It would have been like O.D. Yeller bringing his dog to the shed and then putting him out for good. That's what it felt like. The UFC originally wanted to do, but the MMA gods listened and they gave us Diaz versus Ferguson. And then going into round 4, right? Because I gave round 3 to Ferguson. You got to see a little bit more of round 3. And then Nate Diaz just imploded the boxing. He started to hurt Tony. Tony was starting to give up his back a little bit. Ferguson ended up shooting for a takedown. And what the Diaz does immediately, goes in for the guillotine, and it was tight. And what ended up happening? Tony Ferguson actually tapped out. Can you believe that? Ferguson did not want to tap out when Charles Oliveira had him in an armbar. He did not want to tap out when Benio Dariush had him in, I believe it was an armbar as well, or I'm sorry, a heel hook. All right. When was the last time you ever seen Tony Ferguson tap out? I can't remember, if not ever. All right. And Nate Diaz got Tony to tap out, ending the losing streak of Nate Diaz and continuing the losing streak for Tony Ferguson, which now extends to 5 losses in a row. What's going to happen for Ferguson? I don't know. I think that he might be just a shell of himself. I don't think he can I personally don't think he can compete with the elite of the elite. But Nate Diaz did go out on top, and that's something that I think we all, us fight fans, wanted to see, and I'm very happy to see that. Nate Diaz right now, he might just be, on his way as my dog passes by. Nate Diaz might be on his way onto bigger and better things. I don't think he's returning back to the UFC. I do see a possibility of him fighting Jake Paul sometime down the line in a boxing match, and then maybe returning back to the UFC, or having the Conor McGregor trilogy outside the UFC, and then making a boatload of money. All right, Nate Diaz just is opening up his new fight promotion, Real Fight Incorporated, which might do well, who knows, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how that progresses. As for Tony Ferguson, I don't know. I would just put Tony Ferguson into fight maybe like a Matt Brown, or somebody that's on the back 9. Tony Ferguson just can't afford to fight, these up and comers or these people that are inside the top 10, just because he's not going to be able to hang. That Justin Gaethje fight definitely took a toll for itself. All right, but moving on. Co-main event, Kevin Holland versus Hamza Shamaya. We were supposed to see Kevin Holland versus Danny Rodriguez. We were supposed to see Hamza Shamaya versus Nate Diaz. Neither of that happened, all because Hamza didn't miss weight. All right, and both had bad blood. All right, we couldn't even have a Ron Perlman cold open, and we ended up seeing, what ended up happening backstage between Holland and Shamaya. Both didn't like each other. It comes to Holland comes out. He's getting cheered. Shamaya comes out. He's getting booed to the fullest extent. And then as soon as the bell rings, after Bruce Buffer announces both of them, what ends up happening? Shamaya fake glove touches Holland and immediately shoots for a takedown. And it was just the beginning of the end for Kevin Holland. He had no chance to regroup. I'm not defending Kevin Holland. As a fighter, you need to be aware. You need to be able to defend yourself at all time. All right. Similar situation what happened with Floyd Mayweather and Victor Ortiz. Victor Ortiz, wanted to apologize and didn't realize and didn't take into effect that the fight is still going on, and Mayweather just punched him dead straight in the face once, twice, 3 times, and he was out cold. All right. Shamaya immediately shot for the takedown, took Kevin Holland's back, dragged him down. All right. And then put him into a Darce choke inside of 2.5 minutes. And Kevin Holland was forced to tap out. Kevin Holland was trying to move around, was trying to maneuver his way around of escaping that darts, but it was just too tight. Shamaya was just rolling around with him, following his every movement, making sure he wasn't going to get rid of that darts, and Kevin Holland had a tap. I felt that if Holland was going to be able to escape the first 2 rounds, right, and that's asking a lot, I definitely felt that Kevin Holland was going to have a good puncher's chance. And I knew that Shamaya was going to start off strong. Reason being, he always starts off strong. He gassed out a lot in that Gilbert Burns fight. And, many people moving on forward, whoever faces Shamaya is going to look at that fight as a blueprint. Reason being why? Shamaya was gassed out. The guy didn't have much in the tank. All right. He exorbited so much energy. All right. In those first couple of minutes. And he did the same thing tonight. If he wasn't able to get past Kevin Holland in that first round, I think it would have been a recipe for disaster. Reason being, he was huffing and puffing as he was grappling with Holland. All right, he was blowing through his gas tank. He floored it. All right, he was just like, I'm gonna just burst right through him, and then whatever happens. And luckily, it paid out for him. What's next for Hamza Shamaya? Me personally, I think him missing weight is really going to affect him. Normally, I would have said him versus Colby Covington, all right? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the winner, right? He may just need one more fight, but I do feel like the winner between Sean Brady versus Bilal Muhammad should get the honor of fighting Hamza Shamaya. But the biggest problem outside of that is, will he be able to make weight? He has to be making weight, right? Him missing weight this time really did affect him, and it could have screwed up the whole card. All right, like Joe Rogan was trying to tell him, you have to make weight if you want to fight for a title. Because if this was a title shot, right, he would have not been fighting for the title. If not, it would have been one of those situations where the champion, would be forced to fight in a non-title fight, right, where his title would not be implicated on the line. And I do believe that Hamza Shamaya and his team could make weight. The only problem is just that Hamza has to be very disciplined moving on forward. But I believe that's the next fight for Hamza Shamaya. As for Kevin Holland, his stock does not, drop whatsoever. He really wasn't able to prepare for this type of fight just because it happened in less than 24 hours notice, if anything. He was preparing for Daniel Rodriguez, and Daniel Rodriguez, and Kevin Holland did not get to fight one another. So I do believe that Kevin Holland is going to be fighting, somebody still within the rankings. I just think that his stock personally did not drop whatsoever from this fight. The third fight from the top, Rodriguez versus the Leech. Good fight. I think the Leech is a gangster for taking this fight on such short notice, even though there was a 10-pound discrepancy, right? The fact that the Leech took it was phenomenal, and I have so much respect for him. I got to see him at UFC Long Island, which I'm actually rocking the shirt right now, right? That's when he ended up knocking out Muslim Salikov, right? Phenomenal fight, right? And I was there, rooting for him. Me and my boy Javier from Four Corner Sports, yes. We were there in attendance. But anyways, the Leech, took this fight on such short notice. A different fight style than what he would have had against Tony Ferguson. But I felt like the way that he was fighting in those first 2 rounds against Danny Rodriguez, I felt like the movement, the head bobbing, the speed. I did think that the speed was going to be a huge factor in this fight. And I felt like, the Leech had the 2 rounds in the bag. I know it was 2 close rounds, but I felt like the way that he was able to connect and hurt Daniel Rodriguez was something that was leaning forward in his favor, all right? But it really came down to rounds 1 and 3, and I guess the judges did see it as the Leech losing rounds 1 and 3, giving Daniel Rodriguez the victory, which no harm in that, because I actually do like Daniel Rodriguez. I think he's a good fighter and everything in all itself. I just felt that the Leech should have won this fight and he should have been given the victory, and it would have definitely boosted up his stock even more. Only reason why I'm saying that is just because he took this fight with Daniel Rodriguez being 10 pounds over the welterweight limit, but that's only because him and Kevin Holland had agreed upon a catchweight. Second fight, Irene Aldana versus Macy Chiasson. It's originally supposed to be a women's bantamweight fight, but the Macy Chiasson camp wanted to make this a catchweight of 140 pounds. Reason being because Macy had a difficult time making 135 pounds, so both parties mutually agreed to have this as a catchweight bout. And the last time we saw Irene Aldana, I believe it was about a year ago. I believe she had like some injuries that she was dealing with, but round one, Irene Aldana was just punishing Macy Chiasson, right? At one point, I thought she broke her elbow, the way that her elbow was all wobbling around, and she did tap. Macy Chiasson did tap. Unfortunately, the ref wasn't able to see the tap, and I'm thinking, oh my, I'm like, please let this not impact the fight. Hopefully, Irene Aldana can squeeze out a victory, right? Because in round two, it didn't look good for Irene Aldana. Macy Chiasson was dominating the ground game, dominating on the floor, and beating up Irene Aldana. Macy Chiasson is a great grappler, and she displayed it against Irene Aldana. And I'm thinking, man, oh man, in round three, it could be more of the same. And what ended up happening in round three, it was a little bit better for Irene Aldana. Irene Aldana got put to the floor, and normally what fighters do is that they'll upkick to prevent the fighter from getting close. And what did Irene Aldana do? She upkicked Macy Chiasson right in the liver, all right, causing Macy to drop to the floor. And we're like, what's going on? Did Macy get hurt? And the ref had to stop the fight, ask Macy if she was okay, and she was like, my rib, my liver. And looking at the replay, I'm like, oh my, Irene Aldana upkicked Macy Chiasson in the liver shot, bringing Chiasson down. And I believe it was the first ever upkick liver shot in UFC history to stop a fight. Man, there's a first for everything. I think it's one of 4 upkicks knockouts. I think the last one had to be Nico Price versus James Vick. But man, I wasn't expecting that. I'm glad Irene Aldana won. I know that Macy Chiasson did tap out at one point in round 1, and I'm glad that it didn't affect the fight whatsoever. And then the first fight, the opener, Johnny Walker versus Ian Kuntalaba. Now I'll openly admit I did pick Ian Kuntalaba just because Johnny Walker historically doesn't have a good chin, and I think Kuntalaba was just gonna ground and pound him and beat him up on the ground. What ended up happening, Johnny Walker was able to get the victory. And you would think by knockout, but no, he was able to make Ian Kuntalaba tap out. I'm like, oh my. I was like, not only did my parlay get broken, but I'm like, this is not how I expected Johnny Walker to win. I was very happy to see Johnny Walker win. I was disappointed to see my parlay get broken up by him submitting Ian Kuntalaba. But, everything, doesn't normally work out when you end up betting. But yeah, guys, Ian Kuntalaba was forced to tap out. What's next for Walker? I think honestly the loser of Reyes versus Ryan Spann should be next for Walker. And for Kuntalaba, I mean, he has a couple of different options he could play around with at 205. And then, like I said, I wanted to talk about Beast Boy Chris Barnett. Man is a fan favorite. I really enjoy him watching him fight. He was fighting Jay Collier, other known as legal government name Rodney Collier, right? I don't know why I think Rodney is personally just a cooler name as opposed to Jake. Jake just seems very plain. But anyways, Collier versus Barnett. Collier was just beating up Barnett in round 1, and he almost had Barnett, out for round 1. The referee could have stepped in. They could have stopped the fight, but Barnett just kept on defending himself and giving himself a little bit more time to to keep going. And what ended up happening, round 2 happened, and the tide has just turned. Barnett just ramped it up, started slugging it out like big boys do, swinging and banging. And we got to see Chris Barnett, slug it out with Jay Collier. Jay Collier tries to shoot for a takedown, fails. Chris Barnett takes the back of Collier and then just starts grounding and pounding, just starts slugging it out as Collier's on the floor, and as he's exhausted after all the energy that he spent trying to take out Chris Barnett. And then Beast Boy gets it done, gets the TKO victory, does the fat man flip, and he starts, thanking the crowd, saying that I heard you, I wouldn't be here without you guys. You guys are everything. I wouldn't be, I'm nothing without you guys. And man, I'm just thinking, I'm like, Chris Barnett definitely needs to be fighting in front of a crowd moving on forward at all times. All right? Pay-per-view cards, whatever. If it's a fight night, it has to be in front of a crowd. No more fights for him at the Apex. Please. He only has to fight in front of a crowd. All right? And I know that was part of the prelims. Just to run it down, Julian Rosa did defeat Hakeem Dawodu missed weight last night. I'm sorry, yesterday morning. We ended up getting Jelton Almeida. He ended up defeating I forgot his name. I can never pronounce his name, but whatever. They called him Pleasure Man or whatever it was. He able to defeat him by rear naked choke. We also had Super Melissa Martinez. She was making her debut. She ended up fighting Elise Reed. I was disappointed. Melly Martinez is going to look at this fight and think, wow, I really screwed myself over in that third round. A lot of mistakes ended up happening, and Elise Reed was able to capitalize by, utilizing 3 takedowns in round 3, which ended up securing the bag for her. We had Johan Lanez, who ended up winning. He was the first fight of the card. He ended up fighting Darian Weeks, and it was just a fun fight. The debut of Danielle Wolf. She ended up fighting what's her name, Norma Dumont, and Norma Dumont was able to drop Danielle Wolf, who was a professional boxer, which is pretty funny. But yeah, guys, UFC 279 is officially in the books. All right, I hope you guys enjoy UFC 279 just as much as I did. Guys, please put your likes and your comments in the comment section below. All right, let me know what you guys think. All right, I'm glad you ended up tuning in for this reaction video of the post fight of UFC 279. It has been very fun to be back and doing these videos. I know I've been very busy and I haven't had the time to sit down and be able to record, but I truly love doing this, man. This is part of my passion, and the fact that you guys are subscribing to these videos really does make me, really happy, and I'm really appreciative for this type of stuff. I know you guys are watching. I know you guys are constantly looking at the stuff, and the Twitter game is coming up pretty strong, and I'm really appreciative for that stuff too. But guys, if you guys want to hear me and I'm not on these videos on YouTube, please check me out at Heck of a Morning on Twitter, on the Twitter Spaces. Usually it's at 10 o'clock East Coast time. It's Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays usually. I'm on the Twitter Spaces with Mike Heck and MMAfighting.com. But yeah, guys, really truly appreciate doing these things. Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson, the whole card was great. And now moving on to UFC 280, right? But next week we have Song Yudong versus Corey Sandhagen. Most likely not making a video up until next month, but guys, enjoy the time. It's September, and really like doing this type of stuff. Until then, guys, have a good one. Peace, guys, and have a good night. See you guys, and glad you guys enjoyed these videos. See ya.